You're very welcome back onto the mats, and I'm really looking forward to another practice looking at increasing the flow of chi in the body. And as you'll see, we're working with pretty much most of the meridians, not all, but it's quite a holistic way of practicing. And we're going to start off on our backs, yes, in a supported fish. So you can take a couple of different versions. If you want to go a little bit harder today than usual, you can take a block behind your back, behind your shoulder blades. I've got quite sharp blocks, so I'm going to maybe put a little blanket over it there. You can use your bolster if you rather. You know, the way you put it lengthways, and then you lie over it, okay? And then I'm going to have a little blanket there for my head. And then it's just going to take a little bit of adjustment, making sure the bolster, or sorry, the block, if you're using it, is at the base of your shoulder blades. And then just extend back over, head on the floor there, okay? And we're going to take butterfly legs. So if you need support behind the backs of the thighs, get a couple more pillows, blocks, whatever you got there to support yourself, and pop them in there. Otherwise, soles of the feet together and let the knees drop. And you may find, that doesn't feel good in my back. So perhaps you'd like to either come with the bolster, come a little bit more upright, or perhaps just take the legs into a knock-kneed, more restful position if you'd rather, all right? But we are opening up here, getting into the lower leg meridians, kidney, liver, spleen, okay? And just passively opening up there so you can feel it, and just a gentle opening, okay? And just take your arms down by your sides so that you start to open into the upper body too, getting into the lungs. And the lungs and the kidneys are in charge of grasping external chi, okay? The lungs draw air in and take chi, life force, from that air, and the kidneys hold that chi down, okay? And they store the chi inside the kidneys. They say it's behind the right kidney in the Ming Men. And so this is really important to work the lungs as well, okay? So let those shoulders get heavy as the heart lifts. And just relax the arms down. Let's come to the breath. And you can really feel that working there because the chest is more open. You can get a fuller, deeper breath in there. And you immediately start to feel more energized and soothed at the same time. So let the skin around your eyes soften. Let your jaw slacken. Notice if you're having any issues slackening your jaw, you can just gently shift the lower jaw from left to right a few times. Maybe take a horse breath there as you take a big breath in and blow out through the mouth, allowing the breath flutter the lips. And again. Good, you can keep doing your horse breath if you enjoyed that. Really does soften the skin around the face. Just letting the leg bones be nice and heavy there. And you are trying to Gently stress the joints as you move through your practice. So you want to find a place that's sustainable, where you can really enjoy the Goldilocks effect. Not too hard, not too easy. Just sustainably working through your practice. But all the while making your practice count. And just draw that breath right down into the bottom of the lungs. Allow the belly to swell. And then exhaling, drawing the navel inwards. So you're working the lungs. Every exhale, let the shoulders get a little heavier. Now, I could stay in this particular pose for another 20 minutes quite happily, and I'm sure you could too. And it is such a therapeutic pose. It's a go-to pose if you really need something to assist a little bit of urgent self-care. This is a fantastic pose to go to. So we are going to move on, just gathering those thighs, bring them in towards each other. And obviously you've got the legs open there, so let's just take the feet out to the edges of the mat and knock the knees together. And then you can actually take a little mini windscreen wiper there, just shifting the chi around. And as I was saying before, just noticing how the body feels when you come out of a pose is really indicative as to the level of stagnation of the chi in whatever area you were working on, generally the joints. So if you just notice that was like, on fire, well, perhaps there's a little bit of stagnation in there, and it's a good thing that you worked on it. So let's just roll to the side. Come on up and pop your props to the side. We're just going to come into melting heart pose. So come onto your knees, take padding under those knees if you need it. I'll get my timer. I think we've spent far too long there. Anyway, okay, so coming into melting heart. Option, if you want to come up a bit higher, take your bolster and take your elbows to your bolster, or take the elbows to the floor, shoulder distance apart. And then just take your head down towards the floor, let the heart drop down towards the floor, keeping the hips nice and high. You can put the hands together into a prayer position and bring them behind the nape of the neck. And then just let the heart melt, and hence the name, heart melting pose. But puppy pose in a yang yoga, and you can see why. All you need is the tail. So just gently pressing those elbows down as you draw the shoulder blades onto the back of the heart, softening the heart to the earth. Back to breath. 2 more here. And then just exhale it out, release the arms, walk the hands back in towards you. And let's just take ourselves off the knees for a moment because we're going to be coming back shortly. So come into a cross-legged position, and I like to pop a little folded blanket underneath my seat. Okay, so get the hips nice and high. Easy cross-legged position. And we're simply going to open up the upper body a little bit more. So take the right arm up and overhead, and then fingertips of the left hand to the floor. So if you're sitting up higher, you may need to put your left hand onto a block or something there. Then extend up and overhead, turning the little finger side edge of the hand down. So getting into the gallbladder meridian here, which influences the liver, obviously. If you want to come down a little bit lower, you can bring that left elbow to the floor, pressing down with the right sit bone. If that top arm is starting to get a little bit tired, you have the option of bringing it into a little bind here. So take that right arm away from you, turn the back of the hand towards the front, and then bend the elbow and bring it into a half bind onto your back. Then bring that top of that right arm bone back. Spin the chest up. You can easily bring that elbow onto a block as well. If you feel like you're crunching into the left side of the rib cage. So just gently working the top of that right arm bone back. And if you want more intensity, just working that right hand up and in between the shoulder blades. Minding your rotator cuff if you have any issues in there. Three more rounds of breath. And then just exhale, slowly release the arm. Press that left hand into the ground, lifting the elbow up if it was down, and come up to a seat. Okay. So from here, just take your arms out, clasp them behind your back. Open up the chest even more as you lift the clasped hands up and off your back. Soft elbows. Lift the chest. Okay, and then from here, just take the clasped hands over to your left hip, and then drop your left ear over to your left shoulder. So you should feel that stretch there all the way across the top of the shoulder into the neck. And exhale and release slowly. Okay, let's just take it into a quick fold. Walk your hands over towards the left knee, keeping them shoulder distance apart. Okay, and then just fold a little bit or a lot here. Anchor that right sit bone firmly to the floor. So the more you fold inwards on yourself, the more you get that compression in the abdominal area on the left side. And that sets a spaciousness into the right side body and into the back of the body. Five more breaths. Soften down. And then inhale, walk your hands back in. Okay, come on up, let's just change the crossing of your legs. Okay, if you want to come a bit deeper, you can come into Siddhasana as one shin on front of the other here. Okay, and then we're just going to start with an overhead side stretch. Fingertips of the right hand to the floor, left arm up and overhead, rotating little finger side edge, downwards. So see how much length you can find in the left side body, rooting down into the left sit bone and extending upwards with the fingertips. So you're going to have to lift the heart forward and up. Maybe taking that elbow to the floor, or if the floor feels a little bit far away, take your elbow onto a block. And now let's find that half bind again. Take the left arm to hover parallel, then rotate the palm away. Bend the elbow and bring that hand in between the shoulder blades, encouraging that left arm bone back. Spin the chest up. 2 more breaths. And on an inhale, gently press yourself back up to a seat. Good. And then take your arms just out to the side, give them the shoulders a little wriggle, release that. And then take it, your hands, clasp them behind your back with the other index finger on top. And then lift them up and away from your back. Lift the chest skyward. Sides of the neck coming back. And then just take those clasped hands over to the right hip this time. And bring the right ear to the right shoulder. Let that left shoulder be heavy. Three more. And then exhale, releasing that one. And we're just going to take a side fold. So hands about shoulder distance apart and fold a little bit or a lot. Anchoring those sit bones firmly down. If you want to rest your head, by all means do. Keep the shoulders down from the ears. And just notice the body breathing itself. Let that left outer thigh get nice and heavy. Feeling that gentle release into the left outer hip, into the left low back, into the QL, into the lats. Okay, let's just walk those hands back in. Come up to sit. And we're going to find our way back onto our knees. And we're going to come into frog. So it's gonna, you may need some padding under your knees. So have your blankets handy. Okay, so what we're going to do is take really wide knees. And it's going to vary from one individual to the next. And just taking the feet apart, the lower legs apart. And just bring your arms down onto the floor. And a little bit like puppy pose, let the heart release down towards the floor, resting the head on the floor or perhaps on a folded blanket. And then let the hips stay nice and high as you sink down. And depending on your degree of flexibility, your knee may come off the mat, and that's why I have that nice blanket there. Okay, so it really depends on you, where your body is, and what you feel like doing. So the feet are wide apart, the knees are wide apart, the hips are high. So you're going to feel a gorgeous opening in the shoulders here as well. Again, come back into the breath once you found your position. If this particular pose does not suit your body, go ahead and sit yourself back towards your heels, bringing your heels closer together, coming into a version of child's pose, okay? So you can feel your adductors, your inner thighs really working here. And if you're like me on the slippy floor, the legs are gradually sliding further apart, but we're nearly there. 2 more breaths. And then exhale. Walk your hands back in underneath your shoulders. Come up. Let's come into our bellies, or actually John might need that again. And you're going to prop yourself up on your forearms, coming into Sphinx. And you can take bullfrog legs here. So just bending that right knee, if the legs are still operational, out to the side. Okay, relax the lower leg. And then turn to face forward, taking a gentle heart opener here. So again, you can see that we're working the heart and the lungs, we're working the lower leg meridians as well. So lots of work going on. Lifting the chest. So in Chinese medicine, they realized a relationship between the joints and flow of qi. And this relationship they could influence through acupuncture points, and we try and influence it to a lesser extent through yin. And they have they compare this relationship, and they use water to represent this flow of qi. And they have these specific points that are behind the knees and in the creases of the forearms, called C points, okay, or he points they call them. And when we provide compression into those points and temporarily stagnate the energy there, creating a temporary blockage in the flow of qi in those areas, we stress the joints. So we take that, when we look at it as a stressing of the joints, when that stress is released, that really helps to flush through any energetic blockages in the joints and the qi, and helps to unlock the qi to create a better flow. And so that's what we really try and work on as well, is creating that sense of compression, not just in those particular places. Those are just an example because we were just on our knees there. And just working with it that way. So if you think of the relationship there between that compression and that stress in the joints with the increasing the flow of chi in the body. And that's where you get pathogenic energy coming from the outside, inside, when there's stagnation in those areas. So there's actually clusters of acupressure points or acupuncture points in all of the joint areas in the body. Okay, so let's just change this to the second side. Just slide that right leg back, okay? And then lift the left knee, if you have room. We'll wiggle over a little bit. And lift the chest forward then when you arrive. And you may find one side works a little bit easier than the other. That's okay, that's normal. So keep those shoulders down from around the ears. Keep the heart lifted. Your tailbone is dropping down. Okay, so that you find length in the spine and allowing your heart to sort of slingshot forward. And so just let those hips get nice and heavy. And just as you bring that awareness inside, following your breath into your body, perhaps you start to notice as your body begins to release certain areas, tension starts to move away. And just let that breath flow through you, washing the tension away as you hold your body in different shapes, creating that tension for a little while and then releasing in other places. Another 5 rounds of breath, please. So I'm sure you're feeling it in the shoulders at this point. That's good. Two more. And then what we're going to do is just press back into downward facing dog. Should feel like a bit of a relief actually. So just slide the 2 legs down beside each other. Walk your hands back underneath your shoulders. Roll the toes under. Come onto your knees. And then lift those knees up off your mat. And you can just walk out this dog. Let the head soften down. So just opening up those legs. Yeah, shifting from one side to the other. So we are going to come into sleeping swan, and if you've got any knee issues, I'm going to show you the alternative, which is thread the needle. Some of you know it already. So you can come and lie on your backs and cross your right ankle of your left knee and take that stretch there if this doesn't suit your body. So for sleeping swan, you're just going to take that right knee behind the heel of the right hand. And take more of a diagonal with that leg and walk your left leg out behind you, and you can support yourself under the bent thigh with a block or a pillow or a blanket, whatever works for you. And just before you come down, just walk your hands back in and find engagement there by drawing that outer right hip back and the outer left hip forward. Just finding that engagement to hold and support yourself upwards. If you have enough engagement there, you may be able to take your hands off the floor and onto your legs. Reaching out through the crown of the head, so the heart really has to draw forward. Okay, good. Keep those legs strong just for another moment. And then exhale, fold forward into sleeping swan. And now you can take a little restorative version, if you like, by hugging a bolster, or you can fold all the way down to the floor, whatever works for you this evening. So if we're taking an alternative for this, if this doesn't feel good in your knee, and please, I don't want anyone having any pain in their knees. Okay, come onto your back. And simply cross the right ankle over the left knee and lift the left foot, drawing through. Okay? And then pushing the right knee away and the left knee in towards you. And relax there. So you're still working into the outer hip and into the leg meridians as well. The inner leg meridians as well. Okay. Would it help if I put the timer on? Again, coming back into the breath. Just surrendering the body. And then just exhaling. Releasing if you're on your back, putting the 2 feet on the floor, maybe a windscreen wiper to release. Notice how that feels in the hip. If you're in swan, you may like to come back into downward facing dog by walking the hands back in and then pushing up and back and just walk it out. And then when you're ready, set yourself up for your second side. You know what to do. Taking a diagonal with that left leg. Okay, if you're down here and going towards your swan, you're just going to walk your hands back in closer to you. Engage the legs, lift the chest, bring that outer left hip back, right hip forward, and just support yourself by pulling in towards the midline and then up towards the sky. Just for a few moments. And then exhale and release that, just gently walking the hands out. Hug a bolster if that was something you did before, or perhaps folding all the way down to the floor.
So you can see here we're also working the outer legs, getting into the gallbladder meridian and hence to the liver meridian, and the liver is in charge of blood flow or the flow of chi. The chi flows in the blood. So as you stimulate and regulate the liver function, you're also increasing chi flow. So, as with all of these, I guess the caveat is trying to be too reductionistic, too overly simplistic, and there's so many variables involved that we really need to try and take a more holistic approach as we try to temper the flow of chi in the body. So working with various different systems really is going to work to our benefit much more than simply one area, although working one meridian set is a very powerful practice in itself. Two more. Okay, let's just gently bring ourselves out of this.
And you can take it into windscreen wiper or downward facing dog to release, just noticing how the body feels as you come out. And you can just gently feel that flushing through, back in through the joints. Okay, so coming onto our seat again, and go ahead and pop yourself on a folded blanket if you have one there. Okay, we're going to take a few options. Cow face pose. So the options for this are cow face pose, right leg over left, stacking one knee on top of the other. If that's not working for you, you have the option of coming into cross-legged position, or fire log pose, or something in between the two. And you've got all the props to hand. As you know, you're coming to this practice, you use every prop in the house, and you can always just support yourself there in whatever version you're taking. So just getting really into those meridians in the lower legs in particular again. So whichever pose you're in, try and relax. Remember, you're not going to be here forever. You might be if I don't start the timer though. So let's just take your mind off your legs and get back into the heart-lung area as well, if it's available to you. If not, if this is enough for you, stay here. Okay, so if you're in cow face or cross-legged or fire log, you'll have the right leg on top or on front. Okay, in which case your left hip is lower. So let's go ahead and take the left arm up and overhead. Stretch it over towards the right. Using a hand under your, or a block under your hand if you need it. And then you can take that half bind that we took earlier again. So taking the arm down to a horizontal, turn the palm away, and bend the arm. Okay? So if that's too much to think about, if you're concentrating purely on the legs, that's completely understandable, and do that. If you're here, just gently working that left arm bone back. Spinning the chest up towards the ceiling. exhale, just releasing that, coming up to sit upright. And then you can release the legs. If you need to windscreen wiper them, go ahead. You can set up for the second side. Okay. So left leg is on top or in the front. Supporting and finding a way into the pose that you can hold for 2 minutes. Okay. Okay, so from here, if you want to come a little bit further, getting into the upper body meridians, take the right arm up, extend it out and overhead, and then spin the chest up. Maybe take it into a bind or a half bind. Heart lifts. You're halfway there. Five more breaths. And release, walking your lower hand in. That's it, release. Okay, let's uncross those legs. And full dragonfly fold feels so good after that. So let's get into it. It's a wide-legged straddle. So take the legs wide apart. Okay. And then scoop any butt flesh out behind you so that you feel anchored to the ground. And pop something up behind the backs of the knees, like folded blankets or cushions if the hammies are tight. And then you're just going to come into a fold as deeply as feels right for you. So I'm going to take a block and pop it under my eyebrow center as I relax forward. If you're like up here, virtually upright, going, that's fine for me. Your options are take a chair, you can rest your head on a chair. Or if you're lucky enough to have one of these guys, fold forward into it. Okay. Feel those quads releasing, the leg bones getting heavier.
5 more rounds of breath. And then slowly walk your hands back in. And let's make our way onto our backs. Okay. Okay. On your backs. Okay. Trying to decide what the best course of action is with our limited time. Bend your knees. And what you're going to do is just take a twist here. So walk your feet in close together and then take your 2 knees over to the right side, okay? And then take your arms up into goal pose position, encouraging that left shoulder blade down onto the mat. Maybe turn the gaze over towards the left. Okay, so we can make our way slowly into cat pulling its tail by turning to look towards the right, and you can take that top leg forward, okay, and the bottom leg back. So come and lie on your right side. You can lift that left shoulder blade back off the floor, and you can reach down for either your right lower leg, or perhaps the foot. You can also lasso the foot if you fancy it. And then you can also either encourage that left shoulder blade back onto the floor, or you take it into full pose by reaching for that lower foot or lassoing it, and then coming into the twist there, turning to face up towards the ceiling, okay? So cat pulling its tail. And so you can stop at any point on the journey to this pose. It's a great one for wringing out the body. So your bottom knee is pointing towards the far end of the mat. Two more breaths here. And let's just exhale, release everything, come back into that little twist, and then lift the knees up towards the ceiling. And we're just going to roll to the opposite side. So just start a simple spinal twist here. Okay, encourage the right shoulder blade down onto the ground. Maybe look out over to the right. And you can feel free to stay here. Or you can start to bring that top leg forward, and you can grab onto the thigh or to the lower leg or the foot. And then maybe bend the bottom foot up towards the hand there, and taking a grip
and coming into cat, pulling its tail on the opposite side. Encouraging right shoulder blade down. Legs bent or straight. And then exhaling, just gently releasing. Coming back onto your back, and we're prepping now for Shavasana. So whatever you need to make yourself comfortable. I'm just going to take my legs nice and wide apart. You may like something behind your knees. Take your hands, backs of your hands onto the floor. Just gently draw the shoulder blades onto the back. Maybe covering the eyes, covering yourself with a blanket if that feels good. And please stay here as long as you need. Just allowing the breath be natural. And noticing this gentle buzz in the body. It's just a gentle shimmering of vibration. Enjoying that chi flow. Yeah, staying here for as long as you can. I'm just going to gently bring myself up, bending the knees, rolling to the side. Namaste, yogis. And just enjoying the rest of your day. See you again soon.